Hey guys, had a couple questions I want to address. Having been a tournament fisherman for about 35 years, I fish pretty much every type of water you could possibly fish. Spotted bass, largemouth, Florida strain, smallmouth. Probably even been around some meanmouth, not sure I ever caught one. But the question is, how come things have changed so much in northern fisheries with smallmouth? Well, the obvious answer would be the influx of zebra mussels clearing the water up and invasive gobies. That's a major player in not just the forage base, but the presentations you can make, because in the past the water was dingier, the fish couldn't see you at long distances, and you could get a lot closer to them than you could in the past. But those are the obvious things, lighter line, finessier baits, longer cast, and all those things. But probably the biggest influence on the change in northern fisheries has simply come because bass fishing pressure with mapping, forward facing imaging, and 360 imaging has put a level of pressure on these smallmouth that they've never had before. So let me give you some history. Years ago, when all we had was like a basic mapping, contours were not even really on there. You had regular sonar, no forward facing, no 360, no down imaging, no side imaging. You didn't have any of that type of stuff. I used to be able to pretty much put myself in contention in every smallmouth tournament I fished before all this technology came out. And how did I do that? Well, I did that by understanding what I was looking at on my 2D sonar. And I would literally get on plane in the boat, just on plane, like, 18, 20 miles an hour or so. And I would basically grid out a flat with my boat. And every time that I got a spike on my 2D while running on plane, I would turn around and idle it, look for fish, see if it was boulders or if it was just a bar or what it was. If it looked good, I would put a waypoint there, because you could use you had waypoints then. Before waypoints, you had to try to triangulate stuff from the shore to get you close, and then you had to search for it for 15 minutes to find it again, and then you drop a marker buoy on it. And in these tournaments, you had a hard time trying to stay on a waypoint without a marker buoy. So I would throw a marker buoy maybe off the side of the structure and then fish it. And that gave me an advantage because people weren't doing that. They didn't know how to do that. So I could find these spots that today everybody can find, because everybody has GPS mapping with contours, depth shading, and everything else in the world. Side imaging, and then when they get on the spot, they got 360 imaging or forward facing sonar that they can see every boulder, or they can see the fish next to the boulder. And so I've said it before, if you do everything, the same thing that everybody else is doing, you're going to get the average results, in a tournament, or just fishing against somebody, or just fishing for fun. So how do you modify your approach now that all this technology is ruling the day? Well, what's happening is these fish who, some of these smallmouth are 20 years old out here, these 5 and 6 pounders. For half of their life, they just saw boats going over and never had a lure thrown at them. because people couldn't find them. That now they find, so now all these fish are getting found and thrown at, and they're getting very educated, and they're getting very wary of artificial lures, trolling motor noises, pinging from your electronics. And what's that do? Well, they either just get lockjaw, or I think the smaller ones tend to get lockjaw. They're maybe too stupid and they'll still bite. The bigger fish literally move off of the structure. So if you've got a 20 by 30 rock pile that, you know, you're catching fish in the rock pile, they're down in the rocks, you're pulling your drop shot through there, your jerk bait, whatever it is, and you can't catch them because, you know, they know the drill. They now know the drill. And it gets these fish to moving off and roaming a lot to get away from the pressure. And probably the best approach to that situation is, you know, they may just completely leave if they get a lot of pressure. But if they just get a little pressure, they're just going to kind of pull off and get out of sight of the boat, out of sight of the noise, and just kind of chill. So you can still find these fish, but they're not on the rocks anymore. Now they're over here off of the rocks 40, 50 feet. So you almost gotta, you know, I just assume personally that in tournament situations that we do away with 360 imaging and live sight. I just assume that. I have live sight. I have it. I just assume it go away. I just assume we go back to, can you find fish without technology? Do you know how to break down structure with your feel or with your 2D sonar? You know, things that made you literally have to think about how to do things instead of you taking all the guesswork out of it because you pull up on a rock pile that you found on your GPS mapping. You drop your trolling motor, you see every boulder, then you take your live sight around and go, oh, there's a fish, there's a fish, there's a fish, there's a fish, there's 3 there, there's 2 there. And there's no guesswork anymore. It's, well, they're not here, so I'll go to the next spot that they're on. So what I'm saying is, you got to be able to find these in-between fish. You know, you got to be able to find these in-between fish that aren't on the big, obvious stuff. Because all the big, obvious stuff is going to get fish time and time and time and time and time and time again. And people will catch fish doing that. Especially in long periods of time where there's not a lot of fishing pressure. But under fishing pressure situations, the bigger fish are the smarter fish, and they're not gonna fall for it anymore. So you have to be able to get off of that. You know, where you used to be able to throw 10-pound monofilament on a spinning rod with a tube to catch fish, now you gotta throw 6-pound fluorocarbon and lighten your weight up even more and make longer casts to catch these same fish. So we have to be able to adapt to the situation. It is what it is. You know, there's things that we can't change. You can't change how many people are going to go fishing. You can't change how many people are going to fish a tournament, you know, up to the tournament limit. You can't change, you know, a recreational pressure. You can't change any of that stuff. So we just have to learn how to adjust and how to deal with these situations. You know, I'm relearning how to catch them. You know, after 35 years, I'm relearning how to set myself apart catching smallmouth. And have I got it down? No, I don't have it down yet. You know, there's people that got it down, you know, Justin Lucas and some of these other guys who are experts with this side imaging, forward facing sonar, 360 imaging. They've got it down. They figured out how to get an edge on the people. And I guarantee you're not doing the same exact thing as everybody else. So there's one other thing you can do, you know, in pressure situation is go farther than anybody else is going. Just get away from the pressure, you know. But even then, these smallmouth are extremely educated now. And way harder to catch than they used to be. You know, if you go back to the Bass Open on Oneida, you know, the guy that won it and the guy that was in second were both local guys. So, you know, they had a little bit of an edge, but I think third place was a young kid from Canada. And he literally just chased dots around on his forward-facing sonar. And even he was only catching like, you know, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 of the fish you actually saw on the screen. But he was chasing dots. And that's what it's become, chasing dots. But that's what it is. So, you know, we either go to some remote lake with no pressure and go have fun catching smallmouth the old way, or we got to get with the technology of the times. Unfortunately, got to get with the technology of the times, you know, with your, you know, $1,500 forward-facing imaging with whatever unit you decide to have with it, and your $3,000 360 imaging with another $3,000 unit to go with it. You know, we can easily spend $20,000 just on electronics, just to keep up with everybody else who's spending it, just to keep up. I don't like where it's going personally. Maybe I'm stuck in the old day. I don't like where it's going. You know, now we got the automatic, it holds your live site in the place where you left it, you know, so it stays on the fish even if your boat drifts around. And there's another $3,000. So, man, it's just getting kind of crazy with all this electronics and stuff. But if you think you're going to win big tournaments today without it on a smallmouth lake, you're probably not going to. If a lake has a large population of ignored largemouth that can contend with the size of the smallmouth, then, you know, maybe you can win that way. But anymore, you know, as the lakes clear up, the largemouth population dwindles and the smallmouth population increases because their sight feeders and the gobies are in there and everything else, and they're getting bigger. So it's getting harder and harder to win a tournament on a smallmouth lake with largemouth, with gobies and clear water. So these are some of my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? I vote for, let's go back to 2D sonar, and you can even have your GPS mapping. 2D sonar and GPS mapping and all the other stuff. Nah, don't put it in tournaments. If you're going to put it in tournaments and people are going to have this, then these sponsors, okay, for these units need to be adding substantial tournament money to these tournaments. That's what they need to be doing. So anyhow, I appreciate you watching. Again, if you like my channel, you want to follow me on a regular basis, I'm going to do a lot of opinion things. I'm going to do a lot of technique things. I'm going to do a lot of tournament reports, tournament recaps, and everything else that's included in fishing and bass fishing. Then I ask you, please subscribe, hit the little like button, share with your friends, and I'd appreciate it much. Have a blessed day.